He is also Vice President of Financial Aid, what else, Admissions, you name it, he knows it. So it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Jeff Huang today.
It's a challenge to be the speaker standing between you and lunch. I'd like to speak with you a little bit today about actually building off of some of the things that we've just heard about new technologies. There's no doubt that new technologies are shaping every part of the world. From the world of medicine, we're going to be looking at nanotechnologies, the microscopic human-made things that can be injected into the bloodstream, travel around the human body, and detect and send signals outside the body when it's ready. Oh, is it not turned on here? Oops, sorry. There. Better? Yeah. Okay. I was trying to project anyway. So nanotechnology inside the human body will move around to detect things like cancers before we even know we have such a cancer and its exact locations. From the world of business, IBM is already doing many innovative things. Of course, they are a technology company to begin with, but they have work groups who are assembling in places like Second Life, a little online place where you have an alter ego that runs around and plays and does things. And they've bought rooms where a work team from Mumbai, one person from Mumbai, one person from Los Angeles, one person from Rio de Janeiro, will get together once a week and have online conversations where they'll talk to each other's avatars about the work project that they're actually doing. A work team where people have never physically met each other before. For the military world, we know there are all kinds of implications for this, right? We know that a pilot can wake up in Kansas City, drive to a local facility, fly a mission with a drone that's going around another part of the world, coordinate bombing runs, coordinate reconnaissance, and land the plane and fly home and have dinner with their family. We wonder, to some degree, aren't there some ethical concerns here? It's certainly different in terms of warfare than it used to be. Similarly, we have concerns about governments being involved in hacking and espionage. The recent case of a hacking attempt that's been traced back to a government building in Shanghai. These are all very fascinating kinds of things going on. Well, it's permeating all different kinds of things in our lives, and we ought to be thinking a little bit about the ethical realm that all of this lies in. Unfortunately, the government is woefully behind, very reactive, and sort of muddling their way through trying to figure out what are the legal aspects of this. And this is not just true of American government, this is true around the world. Many of the drivers of technology are far ahead of our legal and ethical concerns. So what I want to talk to you about today is the intersection, particularly here at the Webb School, between young people, technology, and ethics. And in the process, give you a few things that might come up from opportunities. To illustrate this point, I've organized 3 cases for you to think about. The first one I call Professor Huber versus college student. Professor Huber is a math professor at my college, at Claremont McKenna College. He teaches calculus, and recently he gave a calculus exam. Students completed it, he graded it, he gave it all back to them. At the beginning of the next class, a student came to him and said, Professor Huber, I noticed that in my exam, there was this area over here to the right that you seem to have missed when you were grading my exam. That's a little unusual, right? He had some suspicions. He asked the student, well, were you sure that this was on the exam when I graded it, that you didn't add this later? She said, I was absolutely certain of that. He said, well, let's take a look. He had photographed every exam and put it right on his phone. And he was able to determine, that wasn't there before. She was suspended from the college and given an F in calculus. There are very real consequences for things like this. He's using technology in a way that she didn't expect. He was actually ahead of her. Case study number 2. There we go. I call this Brett Favre versus Snapchat. I have a son who's in high school now and a daughter who's in middle school, and one night over dinner we were talking about the scarcity of professional athletes who are, through their whole career, people that you would admire. And my son said, in the course of talking about Brett Favre, Dad, what actually happened with Brett Favre at the end of his career? It seemed like he had a very good football career, but something else happened. Well, being one who wants to speak honestly and openly with my children, I decided to go right through the heart of the matter, and I said he was alleged to have taken a picture with his phone of his penis and texted it to a woman reporter. She did not make the picture public, but made her claim public and gave it to the NFL for evaluation. Now, there are many dimensions to this problem right away. There's, of course, sexual harassment, which is not only an ethical claim, but a legal problem, a legal claim against Brett Favre. There are also perhaps not just criminal, but civil action that she could take, or NFL action she could take. Brett Favre did not participate in the NFL's investigation, and so they found him guilty in absentia, and that was the end of it. Now, my children thought, well, that's silly, because if he had used Snapchat, she would never have been able to catch it. And I kind of thought, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. If you don't know Snapchat, it's the ability to send a picture very quickly. You can set the user settings on it so that the picture disappears without trace within a few seconds of when the user opens it. So, basically, my children were thinking, not in terms of the ethical realm that I as an ethicist want them to think about, but simply, he could have gotten away with it. Now, that doesn't make me terribly happy. Of course, I then give them this long lecture at the dinner table about why they should be worried about this, but the point is Snapchat is this product, it's not even 2 years old. It was invented almost as a summer dare from some Stanford students in summer of 2011. They built this system. It's probably worth certainly close to $1 billion, if not more already, in less than 2 years. Pretty impressive in terms of the way people embraced it very quickly. Case study number 3, California law versus Google Glass. Now, you may have seen this recently. I actually have a friend who works at Google in product development, and he gives me glimpses of things because he knows I'm involved in the ethical world of this. But California law regarding distracted driving says that we are not supposed to be using handheld devices. We are supposed to be hands-free. That we can talk on the phone, but we shouldn't be texting and driving and playing games on our handheld devices while we're driving, because it's dangerous, not only for ourselves, but for everyone else on the road who might be harmed in this process. Google Glass is a set of glasses that has an interface for a computer built right into the lens, so that you can activate with eye motion and navigate through web pages, see pop-ups of text as they're coming in, read and respond, and potentially, with the version that has a camera built into it, record the conversations that you're having with people. Isn't this kind of a problem? It's interesting because these things happen, these products are made in great secrecy because of the intellectual property rights that protect the owner who creates these things. They're created in great secrecy and they're released upon the market and we go. And there's a long reaction time between when the ethical and legal concerns start to say, hey, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe this is something that could actually be of great harm to us. So from these 3 case studies, what have we learned? Well, 1, technology allows us to do a lot of new things that we never considered possible before. 2, things that we can, there's a difference between things that we can do and things that we should do. 3, young people are going to be the source of much inspiration for all of this. You're thinking about problems just like the inventors of Snapchat, and you're figuring out how to innovate new products and new ideas and new apps for all of this. And that there are opportunities and dangers in all of this. Now, I actually have a running discourse with one of my colleagues, Dr. Mark Bauerlein. I consider him a friend. I've had him to campus, and he's given a lecture on campus. He is a professor of literature at Emory University in Atlanta. He is the former director of research at the National Endowment for the Arts. While he was in that position, he was actually given a tremendous amount of information about the habits of young people, and noticed that particularly in history scores, our high school students across the country were actually declining in their knowledge of history. What could be the cause for this? Well, Dr. Bauerlein's conclusion is that actually it's technology. That as much as these new technologies give us incredible horsepower, incredible intellectual capabilities, they're actually more being used as a playground, than anything else. They're not actually being harnessed for these capabilities. So he's the author of a book called The Dumbest Generation: How the Digital Generation Stupefies Young People and Jeopardizes Our Future. You should be mad at this title, if you're a little bit offended at his conclusion. But he believes that this young generation of high school and college age people are not using these capabilities and actually hurting their own intellectual growth because of it. Here's where Dr. Bauerlein and I disagree. Dr. Bauerlein doesn't have a lot of hope that things will change. He thinks, in fact, we're going to continue to embrace that technology of playground activity and not necessarily the harnessing of it for intellectual ability. I question whether that's the right conclusion. He and I point different directions at this point. So, here's the equation. We begin with some kind of a problem, like history scores are declining in American people. And we add technology to this, which he believes is actually hurting the situation. But I add in, wow, my clicker's really not working. There, free market capitalism. By this I mean, when there is a problem, a market emerges, something opens, an opportunity to actually go in and address that market. Much in the same way that if you were in some area that wasn't served by a cable company or an airline or something like that, there's an opportunity in that for someone to get into it. Free market capitalism, though, is really important because it implies that you have the capability, the social, legal environment of freedom of speech, which you'd be surprised how many places around the world that are very familiar that we travel to do not have some of the protections of freedom of speech, but allow you to develop on your own new products, new ideas to go into this range. And there you get opportunity. So some examples may help here as well. You may know the story of Salman Khan. I'm going to pop him up here. Okay, oop, I've gone too far. Salman Khan, you may know this story, Khan Academy. He has a cousin who is struggling with math, and he's talking to her by telephone first and teaching her little math lessons over the phone, and he's helping her along. Turns out he's a brilliant teacher. That's probably the core of this. He has 2 master's degrees. He's educated at Harvard and MIT, a very bright guy, but he's not a public school teacher or a private school teacher. He's just, you know, Uncle Sal. And he's tutoring his niece, and sometimes they can't make the phone calls work out. So he creates little videos of these math lessons and posts them on YouTube for her. It turns out she likes those better than talking to Uncle Sal, or Cousin Sal, excuse me. Partly because she can rewind to the place that she missed and play it again without having to ask him to repeat himself. Well, it turns out that he has created this trove of videos on how to learn math for young people. And a lot of people now believe that there's a market for this, that there's a new opportunity. Many schools have actually reversed the process of teaching math now. They started from the Bay Area and worked their way around, where the lesson, the homework, the teaching occurs at home on the video. And the homework then occurs in the classroom with the teacher to help resolve the question if there was one. So there is this flipping now that can occur as an opportunity from this. Khan received $1 million gifts from Google and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and is developing this out into all kinds of areas beyond mathematics now, into finance and into accounting and to other areas. Now Brain Pop is one that my daughter found for me before I knew about it. This is it's an app. There are little videos that pop up, and they're a small animated cartoon that gives a lesson about American history or government or world politics, international relations. There's over 1,000 of these little educational videos here. Brain Pop is actually trying to address the exact problem that Dr. Bauerlein senses in terms of if our children don't understand history, but they like spending a lot of time online, is there some technological possibility to bring all of this together and have a learning opportunity come out of it? Brain Pop is doing that in a fun way. And you can go into Groupon, you can go into many, many other different kinds of ways that people are starting to see, well, here's an opportunity now, not necessarily just for intellectual capabilities. Okay, so in the future, we know a certain set of facts will be true. There will always be problems. We're not going to get it right. We're not going to fix it once and for all. It's human nature. There will be problems that we need to address. There will also be technology to help us figure these things out. The question at that point is whether technology causes the problem or whether technology can solve the problems that it creates. That's kind of a neat thing about technology. The need for transparency and honesty will be far more clear than ever. Much like the student who tried to fill in some extra things on her exam and got caught for it, or Turnitin.com, which professors use to scan papers for plagiarism, the cameras that are everywhere. Technology will force us to be more transparent and more honest about our work all along. And the need for ethical evaluation is enormous. The need to stop and pause and think, yes, I can do this, but should I do this? Is a slightly different question we should be asking ourselves. So, I wish all of the folks, especially the students from Webb, a wonderful future and an opportunity to think about these issues in terms of technology, ethics, and the possibilities and the opportunities that come out from that. Thank you very much.